How's it going, gang? It's MPCavalier and the DoitIndy crew, and we are at Downtown Comics West in Avon in Indianapolis, and we're hanging out with our new friends, Troy Brownfield and Ben Olson, writer and artist of an amazing webcomic, which is called SOLO ACOUSTIC. It's produced right here in Indianapolis. Guys, tell us what SOLO ACOUSTIC is about, and what was its genesis? How did it get started?
Wow, Ben? No. Solo
It's
Acoustic.
a true partnership.
That's right. Solo Acoustic is, in essence, a side story of another webcomic called SPARKSHOOTER, and the whole thing takes place at SparkShooter.com. And Solo Acoustic focuses more on one musician and kind of the group of friends that surrounds him as he tries to navigate being, a solo acoustic artist in what's more of a rock town. And,
Indianapolis.
Yeah, right. And so SparkShooter is more of the band story, and Solo Acoustic is one guy and his friends. Some of the characters are in common. The band that becomes SparkShooter and will have the same manager, Jack Spencer, and it all takes place around 2003 in the Indianapolis music scene. So it blends these fictional characters and bands with actual people and bands from the scene at the time.
Tell us more about, so the main character, Solo Acoustic, revolves around a character named Will Borders, who is a solo acoustic performer, and one of the reasons I love Solo Acoustic, I totally relate to it, because it's a comic, but it's about something that I was part of, not here. I did that for a number of years. It was awful. I hated it. It turned me into just a jaded, angry, bitter person like I am today. Not like I am today. And I really relate to Will's character. So is he based on an actual person? Is he a composite? Where did Will Borders come from?
Well, a little bit of Will is whole cloth, and there's things that are borrowed from different people, but a lot of that was things that I absorbed from having lots of friends that were musicians and working with lots of different guys. But then you started, with the solo guys, you start to see kind of traits emerge where it is this kind of frustrating bang your head against the wall experience, and they're really committed to their music, and they're really committed to a particular sound, and they like the purity of what they're doing, and at the same time you end up in a lot of circumstances feeling like someone else's soundtrack.
Right.
And so that's one of those things I wanted to kind of convey with that there's this kind of crazy commitment to it, but this frustration. And one of the things that's kind of a running joke in the series, without being over the top about it, is that Will's all over the place personally. He's kind of a mess. That you kind of get the sense that, okay, he works in this copy shop that we've seen one time, and he's kind of a wreck with women, but he's kind of okay with that because it feeds all these songs that he writes that are about this kind of stuff.
He's got dirt on his boss.
Yeah. And so, but then Jack is, as a manager, in a way he almost kind of feeds that, because he's just kind of delighted to be surrounded by all of these crazy people that he works with in all these different bands and so forth. And you get this, I get the sense that the guy that's the most happy is Jack, and that Will is the most miserable, and it doesn't, they balance each other in a way.
They have Jack and Will seem to have a very kind of, the same kind of relationship that the Flight of the Conchords had with their manager, where he was so happy-go-lucky and everything's fine, no matter how miserable their lives were and what a horrible gig they were playing, he was perfectly contented with the way things were going.
Yeah, and I actually started, I knew that the character of Milton Shift was going to be a guy that came in and kind of shook it up a little bit, Shift being the guy that was from the George Clinton cover band, Confunction Junction.
He's the merch guy.
And he was going to come in and kind of move the dynamic around a little bit and be more of a presence.
Very funny.
Well, thanks.
Let's geek out a little bit and talk about creative process. How does an edition of Solo Acoustic happen? Do you guys get drunk and just come up with it on the fly? Is it a weeks-long process? How does it happen?
Well, Ben's drunk right now, so
I mean, that's how I draw it.
Me as well.
Well, it's, it kind of goes like this. With Solo Acoustic, structurally, it's a different thing than SparkShooter, because SparkShooter is set up like a regular comic page.
Sure.
And the idea with Solo Acoustic from the beginning was to do maybe 1 to 3 panels, and it just quickly became like one large panel, sometimes with like way too much dialogue. I actually think that's kind of funny. I think that's part of the humor in it, because people will gripe about trying to cram in the dialogue. I'm like,
Yeah.
oh, we just have one big
Yeah.
panel, and you can fit the balloons in. And so then I'll come up with the basic premise and gags, and then everything after that is this man.
So you actually led right into my next question, which was that when you look at one solo acoustic, it's very dialogue heavy. There's a lot of bubbles. There's a lot of words.
Yeah.
And within each episode, Will goes from one emotion to another to another.
Yeah.
So Ben, when you're reading what the words are going to be, when you're reading the script, you can only draw Will one way.
Right.
And he goes from being, hey, how's it going, to being a little scared, in like one of the most recent ones where he was greeting someone, and then as the conversation progresses, he realized that he might get his ass kicked at some point during the night. But you only get to draw one expression. You only get to draw one thing of body language. How do you, when you sit down, how do you make that decision?
He turned his back. I'm sorry. Go
Okay.
ahead.
I usually try and just either pick out which one is going to be the last one, because usually, I mean, if you're going to look at it, you're going to read the balloons, and as long as they're on either one side, or if it's going to cross to the other side of him, it's either the end or whatever one's probably going to be the most funny.
Right.
Or if I can just do his back, that helps too, and
Right,
get the
right,
reaction
right,
of the
right,
other person who's usually just going at him.
Is there a particular, you've done, well, the 27 are viewable now.
Yeah.
Do you guys have a particular favorite? My favorite is number 9, which is the set list written on the back of the past due notice. It's the entire
I love that.
Yeah, it's the entire panel. There's dialogue happening in the background.
The past due notice was Ben.
Brilliant.
That was one of those things where I said it was just a random piece of paper, and it was going to end with he needed to buy a notebook because he just written it on something else.
Right, but there's like a food shopping list at the bottom of the set list.
Yeah.
That was really funny.
Yeah.
Do you have a favorite so far?
Usually, probably every other week is my new favorite.
Because it's done.
Good
Yeah.
answer.
Yeah.
A little partnership, right?
So with the exposure that you're getting on DoitIndy, which of course is going to be seen by hundreds of millions of people, is there a solo acoustic book in your future? Will you guys take it to the next level and do a full-blown?
Yeah. Well, there's two things. This is a good point to talk about that. People in Indianapolis will be able to regularly see it in print in basically Sticks and Stones.
This magazine.
Starting with number 11. This is 10, so next month.
And there are a variety of places that you can pick this up.
Lazy Bones. Lazy Boys. Sorry, Nick.
Yeah.
Lazy Boys Sticks and Stones is a local print zine that is dedicated specifically to the Indianapolis music scene. And starting with the next issue, Solo Acoustic will be printed in full. Very cool. Good
Starting
deal.
from the beginning.
Thanks.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's
Shout out to our pal Nick Jordan.
Yes, Nick Jordan is making this all possible and is responsible for this fine publication, which is available at a number of spaces. And you
Indie
can
CD
get that.
and Vinyl, Indie CD and Vinyl, Luna, Vibes, Rock House. There's a tobacco shop somewhere, and
Downtown Comics West.
Downtown
Here, yeah.
Comics West, where we are right now. Now has this, so that's awesome. Congratulations on that deal.
Thanks.
Tell me a little bit about some of the other work that you guys do other than Solo Acoustic is the one that you do collaboratively.
Right.
I know you guys do other stuff separately.
You want me to? We'll talk about SparkShooter first,
Yeah.
and then go.
Yeah, please.
Because SparkShooter is going to be really relevant to this conversation here in a minute. SparkShooter started the site, and the first book started in February of 12. And Sarah Vaughn is the artist on that. And she was a student of mine when I taught, and
She's a good artist.
She's great, and unfortunately, she's not able to draw as much as she used to because she's had a number of nerve and other related problems, and she's had to actually pull back from
Yeah,
drawing.
that's too bad.
And so, but she's completely capable of writing, and she's actually writing an image book with Jonathan Luna that starts in November.
Oh, nice.
Called Alex and Ada. And Jonathan Luna, superb writer and artist of Sword and Girls and many other fine image titles. He's a friend of hers from DC, and they have collaborated on this book where she's co-writing it with him, and he's co-writing and drawing it. So Image in November, Alex and Ada. It's going to be 12 issues over 24 months.
Cool.
And then we did SPARKSHOOTER, and at this point, we've done into the 40s with pages, so basically like an issue in 2/3. And we're going to complete the second issue of that with guest artist Ben Olson.
Nice. So you're going to be drawing SPARKSHOOTER.
Yep.
Very
We're finishing
cool.
up the
Very,
second
very
chapter.
cool. SPARKSHOOTER and Solo Acoustic, you can see both of them at sparkshooter.com. Tell us a little bit about that other project that you do.
Well, maybe I should let Ben talk about
Sure.
his, and then because I've got visual aids.
Sure. What do you got? What else you got going on?
I've got two personal projects that I'm working on right now that is
can't-
probably about as much as I can do. And
Oh,
there
it's
is,
like it's at the I can't talk about it
Right,
level.
so far.
See, that's going to be awesome.
Shooting for probably the next Indie Comic-Con that we have in March.
The first indie.
Right.
You
Right.
guys must be so psyched about that.
It'll be
I
nice
mean,
to have to drive
everybody's
anywhere.
excited about it, but it's huge.
Yeah, I
And
just
you guys
got,
will have a presence there.
yeah, I just
Good,
got confirmed
good.
as a guest, and
Yeah.
we're gonna have Ben there doing some stuff, and I know Ben's gonna be there for the store too, right? Is that the plan?
I have no idea yet.
Pete, he's gonna be there for the store. No.
That's what we'll say.
Can you give a little plug to some of your friends or acquaintances who are also producing their comic books locally? Henchman, I just picked up the first copy of Henchman. I really like
Yeah.
Henchman very much. Anything that has guys dressed up as bowling pins, I'm down.
Yeah.
I think that should be in every comic book. So a guy
Yeah,
dressed up as a bowling pin.
anything that Stuart Sager does.
Okay.
I've known Stuart for a long time, and he's got a couple of pictures in the. They did the Walking Dead 100 cover project as a benefit for the Hero Initiative, and Stuart's got a couple of pages in that that's going to be collected as a trade. It's going to be printed one time, never reprinted, and it benefits comic creators that have been in financial trouble. So the Walking Dead 100
sweet.
cover project includes local guy Stuart Sager.
Stuart Sager.
And
Awesome.
Ben,
My friend Kyle Starks has his book out, The Legend of Rookie Thunder, and that's been awesome. That was a Kickstarter he
Yeah.
did at the beginning of the year, or the end of last year. And he's got something else coming up that is probably as much as I can say about that.
Okay,
That
so-
I think he's aiming for the end of the year.
So
for
all
that.
these guys now owe you a steak.
Also, Indie Webcomics group on
Yeah.
Facebook
Okay.
with Lee Charlie and Kyle Latino and all these
And we'll
guys.
get all that data down at the bottom of the screen for them so they don't have
Yeah.
to watch this again and again and again.
That they're welcome.
Which they should do for fun anyway. You guys ready to do 3 questions?
Yeah.
Okay, let's do a special comic book meets music. 3 questions with Troy
Yeah,
and then
I'm
from
gonna
Solo Acoustic.
Put this down.
First question is for Troy. What music do you listen to when you're working?
Wow. Depends on the thing that I'm working on.
Okay. So if you're working on Solo Acoustic, what are you listening to?
If I'm working on Solo Acoustic, I've got a I've got a Spotify list, a giant one I started making for Sarah Vaughn for SparkShooter. That's just songs from the day that were either songs that were around that time or that influenced the bands that were actually kind of basing SparkShooter and Will
Oh,
on.
sweet.
So it encompasses a whole bunch of stuff, like songs that I managed Samsel, and they used to play covers of like Don't Know Why I Love You by House of Love and Homeboy by drawing a blank on the bands. But anyway, they used to do like a variety of covers, so some of that's in there and this other stuff stylistically. I think SparkShooter sounds a lot like Curve
Okay.
in my head. So
Okay.
Tony Holiday, Dean Garcia, Curve, and Space Echo now is Dean Garcia's band with his daughter singing. I'll
Right,
listen to
right,
stuff
right.
like that. For the grim stuff, it's all like European power metal.
Sure.
Like Nightwish and things like that,
Oh my
because it's
gosh.
like that operatic
You're,
kind of
you're embarrassing both of us.
crazy. Oh, you know what I'm talking
I know
about.
those
I like that. So
Ben, same question. Is there a particular music that you listen to when you're drawing Solo Acoustic?
Usually I don't listen to anything.
Okay.
Usually I'll go, shut my office door,
Mhm.
draw the shades, just sit down and just knock it out
Make
in
it
an
happen.
hour or two.
Wow.
otherwise, like if I'm doing other stuff that's kind of more freeform or something, I'll listen to like something I don't usually listen to, like girl talk or just like, oh god, what's the name? I can't think of what it is.
Girl
now.
talk.
It's
the
not,
DJ.
Right.
Oh, I have that. Right. That's
Yeah,
amazing.
he's got a couple that are really good, and they're free.
He
on
put out one for
his
free.
website,
I have the
yeah.
most recent one. Is awesome.
It's really good, and it's good because like it doesn't make sense if you listen to it, so it's just like background noise that's awesome.
I must be like interdimensional because it all makes perfect sense to me. There's a song on there that mixes. Is it War Pigs from Black Sabbath with like some hardcore, like hip hop?
Yeah,
and
oh,
it's
yeah.
freaking brilliant.
Yeah.
Oh, I can't.
It's all-
I was
yeah,
the
it's
only
good,
person in
and,
the world who had that. That's
The second CD, I think, if you can play it on loop, and the last song just goes straight back to the first
right,
one.
That's
yeah.
right. That's right.
So you just put it on loop and just
nice.
draw for hours. or
10 points for
whatever
Mr.
you
All started for 10 for Mr. Olson. Was there a particular book or artist that you saw that work, or you read that book and said, "This is what I want to do"?
Kelvin and Hobbes, I think, probably when I was 6 or something, before I could
Mhm.
read. I just we had one of the big collections, and I'd just flip through it every night until I got yelled at to go to bed.
Same
That
question.
and Far Side too.
Yeah, sure.
I got to say that
Awesome,
hurts
awesome.
to hear that Ben couldn't read and started Calvin and Hobbes.
was
Just
well
the
into it,
age.
though.
Yeah, thanks. Right. Well, but wow, for comics in general, I was born at kind of a perfect storm time in the early '70s. So by the time that I was 6 or so, you had like all the first wave of stuff that was on TV and Super Friends and whatnot, which took me to Justice League and X-Men era, Claremont Cockrum, Claremont Byrne, that and Perez on Justice League and Avengers, then Teen Titans. That's the stuff that kind of killed me forever in terms of wanting to do comics and that whole team dynamic, I think, is really close to a SPARKSHOOTER kind of thing, where you have just like the mix of personalities and how they play off each other, which is what real life's like anyway. And working with the band dynamic, guys could subscribe to the drummer must be like this, and they kind of fall into those roles. But yeah, I think that has a big influence on why I wanted to do it, and then certainly I see the team dynamic reflected in the band.
Okay, last one. So take a breath. Troy, what person, living or dead, would you most want to create a book around?
Man, that's an excellent question.
I was up all night thinking.
Wow. That there are a lot of good answers to that.
Give me one.
Yeah, I know. The first person that kind of popped into my head that was kind of interesting, just because we've been on the music and and everything, is Bob Mould.
Okay.
He's had, I read his book and I've been a big fan of his for years, and he's done this thing of being in the band and doing the acoustic solo stuff and just reading everything from Husker Du on up. That'd be a really interesting life to categorize.
He definitely has a great backstory. My favorite Bob Mould story is it was in an interview, and I guess they got on the subject of his damaged hearing. Yeah. And he said, if I want to watch television, I have to turn every single television in the house all the way up in order to hear what's happening. Yeah. Because his hearing is so damaged. Yeah, that's a great one. You should do that. And you should let this guy. You should let this guy draw it. Same question: what person, living or dead, would you most want to create a book around?
I think the first thing that comes to mind is like Tesla or something. But I think I just read Razzle.
The man, not
So
the
I think that's probably where that's coming from.
Because now there's a third one because there's a car now.
Right.
Yeah.
They should all team up. Nikola Tesla comes back from the grave to front the band, and
Tesla,
they
and they all
tour
drive
in it.
around in Teslas. Yeah.
That's right.
So
Tesla
Nikola
Q.
Tesla, the man who actually really did invent.
I think it'd be kind of interesting. Yeah.
Yeah, that's a good one. Nice. Troy and Ben, thank you so much. I really do appreciate it. These guys create a webcomic called Solo Acoustic. You can check it out at SparkShooter.com. While you're there, check out SparkShooter and all the other information that's going on. Pick up a copy of Lazy Boy Sticks and Stones magazine at your local vibes at Indie CD and Vinyl, at Luna, at the Rock House. It's available in lots of different places, also right here at Downtown Comics West, which is where I buy my comics. I want to thank you guys again. Don't forget to check out DoitIndy.com. Go to the top of the page, and you can see the top 5 video every week. It's your weekly 5-minute breakdown of all the best cool stuff that's going on in Indianapolis. Don't forget, you can also check out DoitIndy on Facebook and Twitter. Link, like, and follow. Follow me at MPCavalier, hashtag SIMLAL, support independent music and art. Live and local. Hey, it's been 3 Questions. Troy Brownfield and Ben Olson, Solo Acoustic. Do it indie. Cheers. We'll see you.